Hi everybody and welcome to Fab Tacks and Paper Roll Pumpkins too. I'm Rosemary and I'm here again with some paper towel and toilet paper rolls to create some new designs. Last week I published a Trash to Treasure video where I used paper rolls to create block-like pumpkin forms and then decorated the forms in 3 different finishes. There was a distressed wood pumpkin made from dollar store craft sticks and a grubby orange pumpkin made from dollar store molding clay, and then a set of 3 small, medium, and large sweater pumpkins made from the sleeves of an old sweater. I asked viewers if they would like to see more styles, and the answer was a resounding yes. So start saving those paper rolls, folks, because I have 8 new designs for you. We have everything from burlap to beach theme and lots in between. I have provided a complete materials list for each project, as well as a link to the original video in the description box. In the interest of time, the pumpkins in this video will only be made in the small size, but you can also make them in the larger sizes if you choose. If you'd like to see how I made the medium and large forms, please refer to the original video. Thanks everyone for watching, and let's get started. The first project is a Rosette Pumpkin, also known as that 70s craft project, because if you were a kid in the 70s, you made at least one arts and craft project in the course of your childhood using this crepe paper method. To make the Rosette Pumpkins, I used 4 of the toilet paper rolls, and then I took some masking tape and just taped off the top of the roll, and then just cut off any excess around the top. I then just hot glued the 4 rolls together. For the crepe paper, I used this rose gold streamers crepe paper from Party City. Dollar Tree does have some, but they have them like in that pink color up in the corner and other bright colors, so I want something more fall-like. And then I just proceeded to cut about 1-inch pieces of the crepe paper. Then I just take the little pieces of crepe paper and wrap them around the end of a pencil, dip them in some glue, and then apply it to the surface. I'm just using regular glue here because that's the way we used to do it, but you could use hot glue if you're more comfortable with a glue gun. I'm just going through the process here and showing you how I make the rosettes and then apply it to the surface. And this is going to be how it goes around the entire form. But in a few seconds here, I'm going to be moving those just because I want to add them to the crease first. So as you make the rosettes, the first step you really do have to do is fill in that crease on all 4 sides. So that's what I'm doing there. But then I'm going to go back and just kind of stuff them into the crease, make sure they're good and secure. And then I'm going to go back after I've done all 4 creases and apply to the rest of the surface the way I just was doing it. Now the thing about using the white glue is that you do have to allow it to dry somewhat before moving around to the other sides, because of course it will slide off, and if you did use hot glue it would, almost instantaneously adhere. But if you were doing this craft with kids or the elderly, white glue would definitely be the way to go. Once all 4 sides were covered with the rosettes, I needed to make my stem, and I was going to use a corn husk to do that. I just go ahead and get the corn husk, put some hot glue. You could also do white glue, but of course you would have to kind of form it and tie it or clip it in order to let it set up and dry. But I just went ahead and did it with the hot glue since I wanted it to dry quickly. And you just twist it around and it makes that really nice stem form. Now that is what it would look like if I kept it natural, but I think I'm going to give that a nice coat of brown paint in order to give that contrasting color. And here's what it looks like when it's dry. And then it just easily just stuffs there into the crevice. And you can, yes, I did burn myself. And I put a little hot glue on there first and then stuck the stem into the crevice. And then I just go back. I wanted to put the stem in first because I want to build the rosettes around the stem. So got the stem in there, hot glued it in, and then added the rosettes to the top. And then I just had this nice little green leaf that I cut down and added another little piece, hot glued those on top, and this rosette pumpkin is complete. The next project is a beach-themed pumpkin and is great for anyone who has a beach house or lives by the shore. For the beach-themed pumpkin, I again took a 4-pack of the toilet paper rolls that had been covered on the tops with masking tape and then glued together. And then I took, again, some of the white glue from the Dollar Tree and just gave the sides and the tops of the form a nice heavy coat. I don't have too much glue there in this picture, but it had a nice heavy coat on it of the glue. And then I proceeded to just sprinkle the surface of the glued surface with the sand and covering it completely. And repeated that all the way around the form. Now, because the sand is so fine, I really should have used the method to cover the tops of the rolls that I used in either the scrapbook paper or burlap pumpkins that are coming up, because this you can see the ridges of the masking tape. So if you are going to make this one, I would suggest you use the top cover method that I use in the scrapbook paper pumpkin. And then I just took some of this nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and added pieces of it, sticking it into the crevice in the middle, and then just wrapping it around the top and there along the ribs of what would be the pumpkin, creating the ribs of the pumpkin, and then just cut it off there at the edge. I tried to wrap it, and then of course it was bumpy on the bottom, so it just has to be snipped there at the bottom and then repeat it all the way around. For the stem, I used these great little driftwood sticks that they sell at Hobby Lobby. Made a perfect little stem for a beach-themed pumpkin. To finish it off, I just added a burlap leaf and some seashells. The third project is a little moss-covered pumpkin. This little cutie brings the outdoors in and adds a little garden elegance to your fall decor. For the moss-covered pumpkin, I took another 4-pack of the toilet tissue rolls that were covered with masking tape on the tops, and then some of this floral moss from the Dollar Tree and just some regular white glue from the Dollar Tree, and just painted down all of the sides and tops of the form. Make sure I got lots of glue on there because you wanted this moss to really stick to that, and then just press the moss into the glue and let it dry. And then of course proceeded to do this for the tops and all 4 sides. Once the form was totally covered in the moss, I took this brown raffia from the Dollar Tree and took a few strips and just tied it in one direction around the form. And then took another couple of pieces of the same brown raffia and tied it in the other direction on the other side around. And then I took some of these little twigs from a old twig wreath that I had and just added again another little piece of that raffia at the bottom just to form a nice little thick stem that I could put into the crevice of the form. Project number 4 is a cute little country pumpkin with fringe burlap and a twine stem. To make the burlap pumpkin, I used this burlap ribbon from Hobby Lobby. Now this was actually in the jewelry making section and not in the ribbon or the wedding sections like they usually are. And then instead of using masking tape to cover the top, I used some of the burlap itself. So I just put some hot glue at the top of the toilet paper roll and then pressed down a piece of the ribbon. And then once that was dry, I just cut off the excess to create a cap for the top of the roll. I then took a piece of the ribbon and hot glued one edge on and then just secured it down. And then I wrapped it around and put on some more hot glue to hold it in place. And then I just hot glued the 4 burlap wrapped rolls together, just making sure that I had the right side up. For the stem on this pumpkin, I used the handle of a foam brush. Now I realized a little while ago that these are nice little wood handles, so before throwing away the foam brushes anymore, I now remove the handle and reuse them for things like this. And then I just go ahead and hot glue some twine to the bottom and then proceed to wrap the entire handle in the twine. For the accents on the burlap pumpkin, I used some of this, it's like a twine braid ribbon with leaves inside. It's really pretty. It's from Hobby Lobby. And it was $2.99, but on sale it was like $1.50. And then some of these stems that I had, some leaves that I had from some stems, Dollar Tree stems. And then I just wrapped the twine in the creases of the form to create the ribbing of the pumpkin. And then I just added some hot glue to the stem, and then also hot glued on some of those little green leaves. Now this pumpkin I made for my pumpkin. It's a scrapbook paper pumpkin with tassel, stem, and a monogram. This is one of my favorite pumpkins because Scrapbook gives you just so many options to work with. Any of these papers here would have been great choices to make this scrapbook pumpkin. But I'm going to go with this one here since I'm making it for my daughter Nicole and it goes with the colors in her apartment. To make the scrapbook paper pumpkin, I cut pieces of scrap paper about 4 by 6 inches and then used some Mod Podge to attach it to each of the rolls individually. I also applied a top coat of Mod Podge to each roll. Then I took another piece of the scrap paper and just did that same method where I hot glued the top of the roll and then added the piece of scrap paper and trimmed off the excess. This creates a much cleaner edge and is a much better option for covering the tops of the rolls when you're not going to go in with a heavy top coat like wood or the moss or the rosettes. To make the stem, I decided to make something out of this floral piece I had, which kind of looked like a tassel to me, so I thought that would fit with Nikki's apartment vibe pretty well. So I took some of this floral twine wire that I get at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and then just wrapped the ends of the floral wire to create a stem-like look. I then went back and hot glued the paper wrapped rolls together to create the form. If working with a patterned paper, just make sure that the patterns line up before gluing. For the ribs of this pumpkin, I wanted to use beads, but I didn't have any beads. I did have some old mixed bean soup mix and decided to go ahead and use that since it was, don't want to tell you how far past the expiration date. And I picked out these beans. I'm not really sure what these beans are, but they're kind of cool. They kind of have some specking on them and nice color. Then I just took some white glue and applied 2 strips to the side of the crevices and then just start applying the beans. Now I guess if you can work quick enough, you could probably use hot glue here, but as you can tell from earlier in the video, me and hot glue are not exactly friends. And maybe we're frenemies, but definitely not friends. So this is what the beans look like when the glue is all dry. It does give like a beading effect. And then I wanted to work on the tassel stem, and it was a little bit too, I wanted to kind of sit up top there and fill out that space better. So I just went back to the floral twine wire and wrapped a nice big bunch at the bottom so that it would sit in that crevice a little better and stick up where I wanted it to be. Then I just added a little N monogram for Nicole and gave the tassel a little haircut. For a rustic touch, here's a galvanized pumpkin. It's made from faux finished Dollar Tree cookie sheets. To make the galvanized pumpkin, I used 4 unattached toilet paper rolls and then 2 of these cookie sheets from the Dollar Tree. I then cut 4 approximately 4 by 6 inch pieces from the cookie sheet. Now that's what fit these rolls, but the rolls do vary, so you will have to make sure that that's the right size for your rolls. I then took an old gift card and smoothed out the ridges on the sheet. This has an added benefit of also rolling the foil. I then took some Mod Podge, but regular glue would also work, and coated the toilet paper roll. I then took the smoothed foil sheet and wrapped it around the cardboard. Then I hot glued the sheet both where it met the cardboard and at the seam. I then hot glued squares of the smoothed foil to the tops of the rolls, and then trimmed off the excess to again create the caps to the rolls. I used the second cookie sheet in the pack to create these squares. Then I just hot glued the foil covered rolls together to create the form. I then wanted to create a galvanized finish, and if you're familiar with my channel, you know that my favorite way to do that is to use a plastic shopping bag as the applicator and then just use some medium gray and light gray paint. So I just put on the coat of medium gray first and just kind of use the bag to create that scattered effect, and then once there's a good base of that, I just go in with some of the light gray paint to create that galvanized look. To add a rust effect, I just use some burnt umber paint and dry brush the edges and corners and places that would get rusty. I then took the remaining piece of the cookie sheet, the second cookie sheet, and again did the galvanized faux finish. Once the paint was dry, I cut away the edges just so that I could have the middle piece to work with. The bumps on the bottom do form nice rows, so I just counted in 2 of the rows and began to cut there and cut all the way up to about 2 inches of the top. Here I'm creating the ribbon, the ribbing for the pumpkins. And so there I stop about 2 inches from the top, and then go over again 2 rows and begin to cut up to that same point on this side. So what I'm doing here again is creating the ribbing for the side of the metal pumpkin, and the long pieces that I'm cutting out, the long strip, is going to be for the ribbing, and then the wider piece at the top of the cutout is going to be for the stem. So when you're done cutting, you should have a piece that looks like this, a wider top with a skinny tail. And then I go back and I cut 3 more pieces, so there's 4 in total that look like that. Once the pieces were cut out, I went back with the burnt umber and just painted much the same way as I did previously, but this time I'm using a heavier hand with the color because I want them to be two-tone, to be, for these pieces, the ribbing and the stem to be more of a rust shade. But I am leaving a little bit of the silver in between. Then with my remaining piece of cookie sheet, I just wanted to make some leaves. So I took this leaf I had from another Dollar Tree project and just traced it and created a leaf image on the foil. Now, if you don't have one of these, you could either just freehand it or print something off of your computer. When cutting it out, I did use more rounded shapes than what was on the original, because this does leave some shardy pieces and they can be sharp and cut you. So just be careful with that. And then I just again paint it with the burnt umber, again using a little bit more heavy of a hand with the rusting than I did with the pumpkin itself. Before attaching the ribbing and stem, I took the wider piece, the stem piece, and folded in about 2 rows in so that it was in line with the longer skinny piece, but then it just had these edges on it so that the shape looked like this now. To attach the ribbing and stem, I took the long skinny piece of the ribbing and added a little hot glue to the bottom of the pumpkin form, and then attached the one end of the ribbing, the small skinny end of the ribbing, and then I just added a little bit more hot glue along the crease of the form and just follow the ribbing up along the side and pressing into the hot glue a little bit just to make sure that it's stuck there, and then just folded it around the top, bringing that stem part to the middle of the form where the stem would be. Once all four sides are attached, this is what the pumpkin should look like. Then I just joined the four stems together, putting the opposite sides one inside the other, and then folding the other two opposite sides the same way, just one around the other to create the stem. Use a little hot glue just to secure all the sides so that they don't come apart. Then I just gave it a little trim and added my metal leaf. With all the handling, my ribbing and stem and leaf did suffer a little damage, so I just went back quickly and with the burnt umber and just touched up a little bit. Lastly, it just felt like my pumpkin needed a little bit of brightening up, so I decided to add some greenery. At first I thought maybe some of this lamb's ear would do the trick, and it does look cute, but I just happened to get one of these little burlap, nice pretty green color burlap flowers that they had at the Dollar Tree, and I just thought it looked so cute, so that made the cut, and decided to stick with the little flower and just brighten up my galvanized pumpkin. For a more traditional look, project number 7 is a corn husk pumpkin. To make the corn husk pumpkin, I use these corn shucks that I get from the Hispanic food section in the supermarket. They cost about $2.50 for that great big bag. And then I just cut out some squares and hot glued the tops of the toilet rolls, and then just applied the top. Again, I'm going to just do as I have done in the previous pumpkins and just use this method to create the tops of the pumpkin and the tops of the caps for the rolls. And then I just glued the 4 pieces together. To cover the form, I just cut and glued pieces of the corn husk onto the exterior of the form. This is pretty easy to do. You can use bigger pieces and then kind of just fill in with smaller pieces. Because of the bumpiness and texture, the process, the material is pretty forgiving. So if you kind of cut it too short, it's okay. You can just kind of piece it together, and it looks like it should look like that. So it all comes together really well. For the ribbing, I used this fall ribbon from Hobby Lobby, and it has nice traditional fall colors throughout, and also some fall leaves and a corn husk stem, again just wrapped with the glue and then painted brown. Then I just applied the ribbing like I did previously, applying some hot glue in the crease and running the ribbon through the crease, and then just snipping off at the bottom. Then I just put in the stem and attached the leaves. And last but not least, number 8 is a sweater sock pumpkin. For this project, I was going to use just some old socks I had, but then I came across these fabulous sweater socks in all these different colors at Walmart. They were $3.99 a pair, and you can get 2 pumpkins per sock. If my rolls are 3.5 inches long, I can cut the sock off at the heel and then get 2 pumpkins out of that sock. But that will vary if your rolls are longer than the 3.5 inches. And you might either have to cut down further on the sock or cut the rolls themselves down. To reinforce the form, I stuff it with newspaper. This helps the form to keep its shape when I stuff it into the sweater sock. Then I just place it into the sock and fold the ends into the little hole in the middle of the form. For the ribbing, I'm using this peaches and cream yarn from Walmart. It's $1.77 for the roll. And then I just wrap it one way and tie it off, and then just wrap it the other way. And I just left some pretty long tails because I just painted it down with some Mod Podge and then wrapped it around these straws in order to create the curly cues. Special thanks to Allie, who suggested using the straws, which are so much better than the pencils that I was using. They're much more pliable and slide right out. Then I just added another painted corn husk stem and some greenery. Well, I hope you enjoyed this paper roll pumpkin part 2 video, and I hope it inspired you to make some of your own paper roll pumpkins. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.